So good evening, everyone here at the temple and at home or wherever you are. Just wanted to do a quick sound check. Can everyone here hear me okay? And then if you can't hear me, if you're online, please write in the chat. Welcome, everyone. It's going to take a moment to make sure that everyone can hear me that's online as well. I don't see anything that, yep, okay, good. Why don't we start by just settling into our seat by just having a short meditation to land here for a couple of minutes as people still walk in, and then I'll ring the bell a couple of times to start actually just gonna ring it now 3 times to start, and then ring it again after 2 minutes just to get started. So take a moment just to decide for yourself if you'd like to have your eyes closed for the talk, or if you'd like to reopen them if they were closed. Just taking a moment to check in with your body to see what feels right to you this evening. There's certainly not a requirement to be looking up here, so however you feel comfortable for the duration of the hour. And we'll have a chance to have a longer meditation, guided meditation leading into silence after the talk. And so yes, welcome to this class on Buddhist mindfulness on Wednesday nights. It's a combination of different topics on mindfulness woven together or woven in with the heart practices of Buddhism. And so the heart practices are called the Brahma Viharas, and it sort of loosely translates as the dwelling places of the heart. So each one of these represents a different quality of the heart. And we have spoken so far already or practiced with loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy. And this evening, I would like to bring in the 4th of the Brahma Viharas, which is in Pali or Sanskrit called upekkha, and translates into equanimity or balance of mind. So, like I said, upekkha or equanimity is one of the 4 Brahma Viharas, these heart qualities. And it really points to an evenness of mind, a clarity of mind, and a deeper letting go of the heart mind that we can cultivate through our meditation practice and through our practice in daily life. And just to get a little glimpse of that, I would just like to invite you into a mini exercise. So if you want to, you can close your eyes again if they're open, or if you rather just have your gaze down, just to be more inward focused. So just feeling a sense of your seat beneath you, grounding yourself into the space. Maybe having a sense of the whole body sitting here. And the movement of the breath inside the body. It's very basic mindfulness. And then see if you can imagine coming to the ocean for a nice walk, maybe your favorite beach in San Diego, if you like to go for walks or swim. And so this time you have come to take a nice walk on firm sand. But on that day, or on this day rather, the tide is in at the moment, and there's hardly any beach because the water is in and the sand is very soft. And so it's very hard to walk on, especially because today you've sort of had a little bit of a backache and you've really looked forward to coming to walk on the beach on firm sand. And instead it's very soft sand. How do you feel? And now shifting from that, imagine that you're coming to the beach and it's another day, and this time you came prepared to go for a nice swim. Maybe you just really want to soothe your body in the waters. Maybe you have some body aches and you don't really want to walk much. You just want to dive right into the water. Maybe it's a hot day and you just want to go for a swim. However, on this day, the tide is way out and it takes you a long time to actually get to a place where you can dive into the ocean to swim. How do you feel? So a sign of someone being well established in equanimity, and you can open your eyes if you want to, a sign of someone being well established in equanimity or balance of mind is that their heart can remain peaceful despite the changing tides of life, just like the tides of the ocean. So I wanted to start by sharing some aspects or qualities of equanimity that we can develop and cultivate in our minds. And so one of them is really developing a deeper sense of wise love. It's a love that can experience all of life fully, the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows of life, as they like to say in Taoism. And so this equanimity really allows us to no longer get overly excited or deflated by life, but simply recognize and know what's happening. So instead of being on this roller coaster of life where when something exciting and beautiful happens, you're riding up the roller coaster and you're being really exuberant and excited, and then something terrible happens and the roller coaster of the mind goes all the way down. And what you do is you just constantly ride up and down, wonderful, terrible, wonderful, terrible. And so a sign of someone being well established in equanimity or peace of mind is that their heart can remain peaceful despite the challenging tides of their lives. And so a person with strong equanimity knows all feelings, just like all of us. They know deep pleasure, excruciating pain, as well as dullness and boredom. But they are no longer thrown by the conditions of life. They can have a day where, yeah, there's boredom that's present, there's not much to do, but they're okay with that. Or something exciting is happening, but they're not swept up by so much excitement that they're sort of thrown out of balance in their mind, or something, displeasing or upsetting is happening, and they can still keep a balance of mind and just know that everything that manifests, as the Buddha taught, is impermanent. There's always going to be, like I said, the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows, and how can we develop or cultivate a mind that can remain peaceful, or rather as peaceful as possible, if we're not completely enlightened yet. So there's this wise love in the heart that we can develop that can hold space for all of the conditions of life. And so I had a good practice opportunity these last couple of weeks. I was gifted an iPhone. One of my friends finally wanted to say, okay, that's it. You no longer just have this old-fashioned cell phone. I've been very resistant to that. I just didn't want to always be on and just be as simple as possible. But I'm going on a longer trip to do some things for my mom who needs some care for a longer time. And so this friend suggested, no, you should really have this iPhone, and I'm gifting it to you because my son just signed us up for a new plan. Well, the problem was that this phone apparently wasn't unlocked with the first company. And so when we were trying to call to get it unlocked, it was basically between these two phone companies, and it was like playing tennis. And I was the ball being bounced back between them, each one saying, no, this is the one that didn't unlock it. No, they're the ones. And in the meantime, I've gone to a Verizon store and spent about 3 hours in 2 days, and the issue is still not resolved. And it's gone to the tech department and the IT department. And I just know in my being that without this practice, I really would have been thrown by this and gotten really angry, maybe gotten angry at the supervisor in the store, saying, how can this be? How can you treat a customer that's been with this company for 20 years like that? And I could notice that my heart, there was still a sort of a flutter in my heart that wanted to go in that direction. But I really credit my practice, my long-term meditation practice and loving kindness practice, that basically it didn't go full-fledged into just lashing out in anger, but just really knowing, oh, this is how it is now, and maybe I won't be able to use this phone in Germany when I could really use it actually for my travels and for helping my mom. So I could really sense how this quality of equanimity is being strengthened in my heart-mind because of the practice. So it's really important in our daily life, in our mindfulness practice, to notice when we get overly excited by the nice things and then horrified by what feels ugly or wrong or negative. And when we do that, we very much become like a hamster on a wheel, running away from the unpleasant and running towards the pleasant all the time. And so we're constantly caught in this wheel in that way. And in Buddhism, this hamster wheel is actually referred to as the wheel of samsara. Samsara being this world that we live in as human beings on earth. And so there's a belief in Buddhist cosmology that we get reborn into this wheel of existence over and over and over again until we can see clearly the reality of life, the reality of impermanence, that things are constantly changing, that nothing is ever solidly the same, including this thing that we call I, me, mine, and myself. It's just causes and conditions that are constantly changing. Cells are constantly being born and dying. So there's really nothing we can point to as an actual solid self. And so when we think that, when we come from the premise that things will always be the same and never changing, that's when dukkha, or suffering or disease, really come into play, that the Buddha talked about in his teachings that were very much about dukkha and the end of dukkha. That's basically, he said, all that he ever talked about is suffering and the end of suffering, offering a path to that. So the purpose of Buddhist practice is really to see through the constructs of the mind, the stories we tell ourselves, the filters through which we see the world. You know, the sense that, oh, it's wonderful, oh, it's terrible, or, you know, I hope this person is always going to be in my life, or I'm just getting it now, I've gotten everything under control, and then boom, something happens and it all changes again. And it's a hard practice. It doesn't come easily. It takes many, many years. People that believe in more than one lifetime, it can take many lifetimes to get to this place, to develop this real sense of equanimity, of balance in the heart and mind. But I'm sure we've all experienced, at least to some extent, moments of this balance, of this tranquility of heart and mind that the Buddha talked about. So this quality of equanimity allows us to sit and look at that hamster wheel and not get on it, just knowing what's present in this moment without jumping on the wheel and, you know, riding the ups and downs of the roller coaster. And so there's a story in the Buddhist scriptures called the Dhamma or the Dharma. And it's a story about a woman who lived in the Buddha's lifetime and joined the order of nuns and monks during the Buddha's time, and became one of the enlightened nuns rather. And her name was Patachara. And I'm just going to sum up her story briefly, but basically before she became a nun and joined the order, joined the Buddha's path, you know, she was a young woman, she fell in love, she met this man in India that wasn't of her same caste. So they eloped together because they knew they weren't going to ever be able to stay together, not being from the same caste, from the same class. And so they had two children, very young, one a toddler and one just a brand new baby. And just to long story short, in a very tragic way, both the children died and the husband died. And now she was left all by herself and absolutely went crazy in her mind with grief and despair, and actually decided to make her way back to her family that she had left for her husband and hadn't seen now in a few years. So she walked all the way back, maybe, I don't know, several hundred miles possibly, back to her hometown. And when she got there and got to her family home, the home was empty, and basically there wasn't any home anymore. It had disappeared. And she got a hold of one of the neighbors that said, "Don't you know there was a fire raging through here, and your family home was destroyed, and all your family members died, your parents, your brother, your younger sister, they're all dead." And in that moment, the young woman absolutely was just so grief-stricken that she went completely out of her mind, went completely crazy in her mind, and just was wandering the streets day and night, shouting and yelling, and nobody could console her. And as the story goes, at some point, the Buddha and a group of his nuns and monks made it through the town, and the woman, one of the monks caught the attention of that woman already. He saw her sort of crazily running through the streets and got the Buddha's attention. And the Buddha just quietly walked up to the woman and just gazed at her with eyes of compassion and loving kindness, and just very quietly told her, "Sister, regain your mindfulness. Sister, regain your mindfulness." And somehow, because of the karma maybe of that woman, that was enough to really wake her up in that moment. And as the story goes, she became enlightened. From the words of the Buddha, she joined the order, and she was a nun for the rest of her life. And maybe it's not that simple for us who are on the path and maybe needing a lot longer to become enlightened, but I take a lot of consolence in that, just to really know, yes, when I am out of my mind, so to speak, with grief, with despair, with difficult emotions, just that reminder, yes, I can actually regain my mindfulness in this moment. I can come back to this present moment. I can allow myself to feel this difficulty and be fully present to it. There is that possibility. So equanimity has the quality of a bird's eye view that sees with perspective. It sees the whole picture of what's going on. Acts of kindness, compassion, and love in the world, and coexisting with acts of war, aggression, and harm. And these can be inner aggressions as well, or inner acts of kindness, how we feel inside of ourselves. And it also has this perspective of time, that, things come and go, like I said earlier, riding the waves. And I think we can, if we use the example of politics, for example, depending on where you are on the political spectrum, this might be a time for you where things are wonderful. Yes, the people are in office that I support, that I voted for, everything is wonderful. And then the other side, if you're on the other side, it's, oh my God, this is just a terrible time. And just to know, whatever it is, it's going to change again. And that might be easier said than understood and really taken in one's heart, but it really is that way if you look at it from a historical perspective, with a bird's eye view and a long-term view, everything is going to change again. So this clinging to, this is a wonderful time, we finally got the president elected that we want, whoever that is for you, and then boom, the next thing happens, oh, but he didn't or she didn't really do everything that I wanted them to do. And then there's this deflation again. So this hamster wheel of riding up and down, up and down. So in a sense, if we only focus on the ugly, we will get horribly depressed. And if we only focus on beauty, we may get uplifted, but we also don't see the whole picture in the same way. So for balance of mind, it's really important to have the knowledge of both and not get carried away by either. And so I feel like a really wonderful example of that is the Serenity Prayer of AA. As most of you know, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think is a very beautiful example of equanimity practice, of balance of mind, and how to keep that in one's heart and cultivate it. So equanimity knows everything coexists. These pairs, birth coexists with death, the ugly coexists with the beautiful, the sacred coexists with the profane. Young age coexists with old age, spring coexists with fall. And so wisdom, our wisdom knows that there is not one without the other. And the Buddha, in this sense, in this aspect, or in relation to that, talked about what he called the 8 worldly winds. And these come in pairs. So they are the pairs of praise and blame, success and failure, gain and loss, and pleasure and pain. And so these winds keep us on a feeling roller coaster, like I said earlier, always wanting to success, gain, and pleasure, and always rejecting failure, loss, and pain. And so with a sense of equanimity or balance of heart and mind, we are not blown by these winds and let go into knowing that true happiness and peace is generated from within our hearts. And so the Thai forest master that I've often quoted in this class, Ajahn Chah, a Thai forest master who died several years ago, he said that if you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you have a lot of peace. And if you let go completely, you will have complete peace. And so just wanted to point out that letting go is not the same as getting rid of. but rather it's having one's palm open, not grasping, not throwing away, but holding lightly whatever is happening. And so as the talk is coming to an end, I'd like to invite you into one more little mini exercise. So if you want to just put out your palms in front of you, and you can close your eyes again if that's easier to really get a sense of your palms from the inside out. And then place into the palms of your hands the one thing or the one person or animal or situation or place, whatever it is in your life that you hold dearest in your heart. That's the most meaningful person, the most meaningful thing, and there's a sense that you absolutely cannot live without this thing, this person, this animal, whatever it is. It's the one thing that you really feel like, I just can't let this go. I can't live without that. So naturally now, close your hands around that and make fists, really beginning to hold on to that person or to that thing with all your dear life. And there's a lot of attachment here, and you just really sense this is the one thing I cannot give up. So your fists are becoming tighter and tighter to really hold on to this person, to this thing, really clinging, grasping. Make your fists to go tighter and tighter and tighter. Maybe there's a sense now that it's beginning to feel unpleasant in the fist, but you know you just can't live without this. So you're gonna make them even tighter, 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 tighter. And now very slowly begin to unwind, to open your fists. Letting go, letting go, letting go. And just noticing the difference in what it felt like to have those tight fists and what it feels like now to have these fists open and released. And then you can gently release your hands down, coming into your meditation posture. The eyes can remain closed, or if you're not comfortable, please have your gaze downwards. And just stay for a moment with the sensation of your fists open, maybe having your palms facing up for the meditation this evening. Letting your shoulders be relaxed. Your eyes and facial muscles at ease. Getting a sense of your heart center in the middle of the chest. And just noticing the quality of the heart in this moment. Maybe it's feeling quite tender after the exercise. Maybe there's a sense of openness or closeness. Maybe it's feeling quite tender. Maybe there's fear, relaxation. Just tuning in with what's present in the center of your heart. And just allowing it to be there with a kind and loving attention. The intention to relax your heart space. Relax the belly. Feeling your spine at ease from the bottom to the top. Settling more into your meditation posture with a relaxed spine. And see if you can take several deeper breaths in and out of the belly, feeling your belly expanding like a balloon with the in-breaths, and then gently falling all the way back down towards the spine with the out-breaths. Taking a few more deeper breaths in and out of the belly. And then just quite naturally allowing the breath to return to its natural rhythm. No longer controlling the breath in any way, but simply allowing the breath to breathe you. And then please guide your awareness back into your heart, your spiritual heart in the center of your chest. And, imagining that you're taking a few breaths in and out of the heart. Practicing with this heart quality of equanimity, of balance, of heart and mind this evening. Allowing the heart to be gently and naturally at ease, with the intention to allow the mind to find a sense of calmness, to rest in the heart. A sense of gentleness, of ease, of stability, of heart and mind. So upekkha, or equanimity, is that quality of love that allows things to be as they are, that understands the whole picture. And some of the images used for equanimity are the light of the full moon, like a gentle, reflective light, or a tree blown from all directions, and it remains rooted. Sometimes the image of a rock, unshakable. So see if any of those images work for you. Connecting with the quality of balance of mind, of equanimity, and letting your whole body be filled with that quality of the heart. And from your body, allow this quality to radiate in all directions. Feeling it radiate inside of you. And ultimately allowing it to radiate out into the world. So however you can most easily connect with this quality of the heart, of balance and equanimity, I invite you to come into your own meditation with it. We'll be sitting for about 15 minutes this evening. I'll ring the bell when the time is coming to a close. So just inviting us into stillness of heart and mind. I'd like to end the meditation with a reading by Mingyur Rinpoche, a Tibetan master, from his book, The Joy of Living. But the best part of all of it is that no matter how long you meditate or what technique you use, every technique of Buddhist meditation ultimately generates compassion, whether we are aware of it or not. Whenever you look at your mind, you can't help but recognize your similarity to those around you. When you see your own desire to be happy, you can't avoid seeing the same desire in others. And when you look clearly at all your fear, anger, or aversion, you can't help but see that everyone around you feels the same fear, anger, and aversion. When you look at your own mind, all the imaginary differences between yourself and others automatically dissolve, and the ancient prayer of the four immeasurables, the Brahma Viharas, becomes as natural and persistent as your own heartbeat. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings have joy and the causes of joy. May all beings remain in great equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. So we have about 8 minutes or so. If there's any comments or questions or anything that needs clarification, and if you are at home or someplace else, feel free to write in the chat. I'm getting slowly better at checking the computer as well. It's not my forte, so. Yes, all the way back, David.
Hey, someone once told me that indifference is the enemy of equanimity. So, can you speak to the difference between indifference and equanimity?
Mm-hmm. So the question is, what's the difference between indifference and equanimity? And actually, indifference is considered the enemy or the near enemy. I forgot if it's the near enemy or a far enemy. There's always a near enemy and a far enemy to one of those heart qualities, but it's definitely, indifference is considered at least the near enemy to equanimity, because it's not an indifference, kind of like, oh, I don't care about the world, whatever, I'm just gonna hide in my hole, or, the world is what it is, I don't want anything to do with it, or I don't care about people suffering, whatever it is, but it's more of a sense of knowing that when you get on that hamster wheel and you're always exhilarated by something wonderful that happens, or you're just completely downtrodden by something challenging in your life, that you just realize that creates a lot of suffering in your heart and mind. It doesn't mean that we can enjoy something in the moment, as long as we know that, yes, it's very enjoyable right now, and I'm really feeling the more of a quiet joy of it. But I also know that ultimately joy, just as suffering, is going to shift again, or it's going to change again. So it's more this being actively present with whatever manifests in life, and just knowing in your heart that the best way of being with it is with a sense of equanimity or peacefulness in the heart and mind, just knowing the changing conditions of all phenomena. Everything is causes and conditions, and is here one moment and then leaves us again. So it's more this active presence or mindfulness practice of equanimity. And so I think the indifference is just a sense of not caring at all. But I think one can deeply care, and maybe what comes to my mind always is the civil rights movement in this country, and just knowing that the civil rights leaders really cared about the injustices of society and wanted to do something about it. But I think we all know that if something is done with aversion or despair or just like, I can't stand it, then it's not coming from a good place, and it's likely just to make the conditions of the world worse. But when we can approach something with a clear and balanced heart mind, then it's gonna likely take us a lot further on the path. So I don't know if that clarifies it a lot, but that's sort of what comes to mind. So, yeah. Yes, Stephanie.
I had a really hard time being still. I was very agitated. It began when I thought I was being bitten by a mosquito.
Mhm.
Well, there are mosquitoes here.
Mhm.
And then my neck was hurting.
Mhm.
And I was moving my neck from side to side, and that was probably not the right thing to do because it made it hurt more.
Mhm.
This had not happened since I've been coming here about a month and a half.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just really hard.
Mhm. Yeah. So someone was saying that basically they were having a hard time being still this evening or feeling peaceful, feeling a sense of equanimity. And so always in Buddhist mindfulness, there is really no goal of achieving something or being, right away dropping in and feeling completely perfectly balanced. Really, mindfulness is about bringing a loving attention to whatever is present. So the steady heart and mind can be cultivated over time when we know that aversion is a quality that can appear in the heart and mind, or a sense of difficulty in the body, whatever the sensations were that you were feeling in the body that you connected with pain or labeled as pain. Just bringing a loving attention to that can really help you cultivate a sense of clarity, a sense of more stillness of the heart and mind. So it's not about making things go away or not wishing them to be here or bringing in more of something, but rather to be able to sit with whatever the conditions are that arise in your mindfulness practice. And sometimes that means you might be coming here or meditating at home and it feels perfectly still and you can really drop in with that peacefulness. And at other times, you've had a really difficult day and your mind is just swirling and it's really maybe hot in the body or hot in your mind and things are feeling out of whack. And so then you sit with that and you're cultivating a heart of equanimity in that way. It doesn't mean that those conditions don't show up, but it's about the presence that you bring to whatever shows up is really what can transform suffering, dukkha, ultimately. So, yeah, thank you for that question. Just want to see if there's anyone written in, not so far, yeah. Yes?
In your own journey,
Mm.
what did you find was most effective in developing, fostering a sense of non-attachment?
So, yeah, what has been most helpful in fostering a sense of non-attachment? Really feeling the pain of the attachment. I, like you, have a person in my life that I had to let go of at some point in my life, and it was absolutely excruciating, and I really had those fists around that person, and it's actually what made me walk through a temple, the doors of a temple at that time over here, Shifan Temple 20 years ago. There was so much suffering and so much clinging attachment, and it's just been a very, very long process of maybe coming more into balance, of at least having an intention to be able to love a person unconditionally. I can't say that I'm there. But I feel like I have the intention and I know there is a possibility of being loving without the clinging and really knowing that there's really a difference between love and attachment. one has that open heart of really well-wishing for the other person, and the other is a clinging, I want this person or this thing to myself. And then really feeling how painful that is. I think really feeling the pain and being with the pain and, wanting to make it come out a certain way is really ultimately of what's kind of opened up things for me and bringing some mindfulness around it, and a lot of love, a lot of compassion for myself, a whole lot of compassion. And it's a process, it's a journey. I'm not there yet. So we're in it together. So, yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much for the meditation. I was just curious, how often do you meditate, like each week or each day? Like, what's your practice like?
I meditate every day unless it's a special circumstance that doesn't allow me to, but I do have a regular daily practice of at least 45 minutes, mostly an hour. And sometimes I try to loosen it up a lot. I feel like even meditation can become a routine that can become set in stone, and I realize, if I don't have the meditation in the morning, now something is wrong, and so I don't want to have it so rigid. However, I do like to sit every morning for that amount of time, and it's been a really good medicine for me in my life. So, yeah. How about yourself?
I haven't been here for like the last week and a half, but I can tell it makes such a difference when I'm not able to converse with when I am. Like, I feel way better. Being here, it helps me with my, busy, hectic life. But I try to do a meditation in the evening each night.
Wonderful.
I
Yeah.
usually do guided ones for like some insight time or the app. But I've been trying to get better and just like sitting with nothing.
It's wonderful. It seems like you found the time of day that works for you, and that's really encouraged. Find the time of day that works for you. For me, morning is normally better, and then for you, evening works better. And just to know that whatever shows up in meditation is not a mistake. It's not always going to be peaceful. There's going to be definitely moments and sits where it's not. And just to invite everything in, like I said, with a loving intention and presence. And sometimes just naming what is present, anger, frustration, despair, when it does show up, can really make a difference, and just surrounding it with compassion. So not thinking that whatever shows up, or if your mind is extra busy after a hectic day, that it should be able to drop right into being peaceful. We're not robots, so it's very helpful to remember as well. But I'm glad you found this path, so I'm glad it's helpful to you. Yeah. What's your name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer, okay, yeah, welcome. Let's see. I think, we have one more question. Did you have your hand raised? No. Oh, there's one more. Do you mind, David? Okay, yes.
Oh, this, what you're talking about is really tracking with where I'm at right now. I'm coming at attachments from a parental perspective.
From a
Parental.
perspective, attachment.
And it's like, I've seen my son suffering. And I've done all this decades and decades of suffering and have learned from it. And it's just impossible for me to transmit what I've learned from that to him. It's like he has to go through this. And it's just hard for me to watch. So that's what I was holding on to and trying to let go of. Because here's what I know for sure. The more I try to help, the worse it gets. So
It's,
so thank you.
that aspect of being a parent and wanting the best for one's child, and just having the wisdom that everyone needs to go through their own process, and having to watch that when you feel like that person has gone off track. That's very hard, and I think that's where that cultivation of equanimity really comes in very handy. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but just to remember that, like you are, everyone needs to go through their own process, needs to find their own path, their own wisdom, even if it's through the rough parts and learning from the mistakes. I guess we all really have to do that in our lives and still do. So thank you for saying that. Yes, that's so true. Yeah. Okay, David, it's your turn to come up. Thank you for volunteering tonight.
Of course.
And thank you also for your gracious comments online. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your feedback. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David. I'm your host tonight. We opened the Dharma Bund Temple 17 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 5 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it, then bring it back whenever you're done with it. Please straighten up your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you again.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a safe journey back to your home, wherever that is, and hope to see you again some other time. Good night.